Shemai sit IT Croeso Christoi. What's cracking, boys and girls? We've got a cheeky chat on Fighting Fantasy's House of Hell. Now, this one's a little bit different because I'm going to try and sell you on the book itself within the first maybe 3 minutes. Then I want to go on and talk about the House of Hell itself, the story, the encounters, the adventure, the traps, what you're getting yourself into with the book. So, how about we get into the selling points? Let's sell this book to you. Let's go. So, Fighting Fantasy's House of Hell is a choose-your-own adventure book set in the present day, and it's very much horror-themed. Now, because this book is set in the present day, you're not going to be fighting trolls, goblins, orcs, whatever. You're going to be fighting devil worshippers and the supernatural. You know, it might sound like a night down your local pub, but it's honestly really good. It's a breath of fresh air to finally be in an adventure, and you're not actually an adventurer. You don't have a sword, you don't have a shield, you don't have any armor, you don't actually know how to fight. You're just going in, fighting them with the raw, unadulterated rage of somebody who's just trapped in a creepy house. Now, this is a house you're not going to find on Zoopla, you're not going to find on any listings, because it has dungeons, it has traps, it has endless corridors, maze-like hallways, and a fair few ways to die. It's actually pretty brutal. So, although this fighting fantasy novel has the silliness of a fighting fantasy novel, it feels a bit more adult, it feels a little bit more difficult, and if that's the sort of thing that you like, then it's going to appeal to you. You know, if you like horror, this book is probably going to appeal to you anyway. So, if you can't tell, I quite like this book. I like horror, I love monsters, I love the supernatural, and even then, the devil worshippers are pretty cool. If you're waiting on me to tell you whether or not I think this book is worth it, I think it is. I think you should get the book if you can. It's on Amazon, or get it on eBay for a little bit cheaper. Maybe get the older editions over the newer ones, but that's going to be up to you. So hopefully I've sold you on the book. If not, well, you can stick around, and then I'm going to go into it in a bit more detail, a bit more depth. I'm going to get my wellies on, I'm going to be knees deep in it. So House of Hell was originally set in the 80s, you know, and you might be asking, well, how is that meant to be a modern day setting? You know, it's almost 40 years by now, and the reality is, you know, it still fits. Maybe you just left your mobile phone at home, you've broken down outside this creepy house, you've gone in, and bada bing bada boom, now you're locked inside a creepy house, fighting all sorts of horrors and devil worshippers. And this setting works because we still have devil worshippers and we still have horrors. You know, go down your local on a Saturday night, you're going to see them there. You know, it's not hard to see these things in real life. But nevertheless, I like talking about covers. I like looking at pretty pictures. It's fun. And like I said, you know, it's a bit of banter to rip into a picture. It's a bit of banter to rip into a cover. So, you know, let's get into it. So, if we look at the puffing cover, we're going to see it's a nice little hand-drawn illustration depicting a scene from, you know, at the beginning of the story when you're looking up at the house itself. You're looking through the trees, and there's a creepy little demon thing looking at you. You know, he's probably eyeing you up. He's probably going to ask you for change as you walk past, then swear at you when you say no. But who are we to judge this demon on its life choices? You know, we don't know what's happening. Maybe he got kicked out of the House of Hell for not paying rent. How do we know? And the answer is, we don't. But that said, the puffing cover is really cool, and it actually depicts the scene where you leave your car and you're looking up at this creepy old house. Then next we got the wizard cover, and I like the wizard cover. You know, it's creepy. It's got that creepy little dude. He's changing into something, and without spoiling anything, this guy actually features in the book. You know, growing up, I was always wondering, who is this guy? You don't see him in the story, but you do. And thing is, though, they changed the character's design, and it's not actually said in the book, which is lovely. You know, it's a bit convoluted, a bit confusing. But, you know, it is what it is. I think it's pretty cool. It's nice and creepy. And all in all, it's very reminiscent of how book covers used to be in the early 2000s, you know. Back when I was in school, back when I was in a library, you know, I'd be looking around and you'd see this kind of art style everywhere. Whether it be the Doctor Who books, I think maybe Goosebumps. Goosebumps used to have nice book covers. And then obviously Fighting Fantasy used to pop up occasionally. But, you know, it is what it is. Last but not least, we have the Scholastic version, and the Scholastic version isn't getting a kick in this time. I actually quite like it, you know, at some point. The art is actually relevant to the story. You know, it's very much an homage to the Puffin version, where you actually see the house. You got some creepy looking demon overlooking the house. You know, it's not literal in the book. I think it's just because the House of Hell, you got a demon. If it was the House of Gammons, you'd probably have a gammon looking at you, you know, a 5 ounce gammon. But you know, to get back on track, to stop talking about gammons, I'm gonna say it is what it is. You know, the cover's pretty good. Would I take it on a bus? Would I take it on public transport? Well, the answer's no. No, I wouldn't, because at the end of the day, I don't want to be sat next to someone eyeing up my reading material. They don't know. They don't know the House of Hell like I do. So, let me pluck out that little bit of cringe from your memory and replace it with me saying, yeah, I quite like the Scholastic version. It's pretty cool, to be honest. I'm glad that it's on point. But, you know, let's talk about the story now. What's the point of talking about cover if we're not talking about the story? So, let's go. So the story starts with you driving a car. The rain is hammering down and you're driving down a side road. You know, you don't know where you are and you've been given bad directions. And to top it all off, your car starts to break down. You know, it slows, it comes to a halt, and you just sort of let it crawl to the side of the road. And you're sort of just cursing this fella. You don't know what's happening, and all in all, your day is ruined. So you're looking around and you see this mansion, this house, further down the road. But you know, a light flickers on, and you're thinking, well, I'm gonna have to ask these guys for directions, and I'm gonna have to ask them if I can use their phone to get a mechanic up to fix my car, so I can be on my way. Because this place is creepy, you know. I don't like being here, and I'm probably gonna miss tonight's EastEnders. So what you do, you make your way up to the house and you knock the door. You're not actually answered. Nobody answers the door. They're rude, they are, aren't they? But this is where you get to choose what you want to do now. So you're given the choice, you know, you can choose whether or not you want to go around to the side and try and get into the kitchen. And what happens is, if you do go that way, you get to watch two cultists having a conversation. You could try the door, you could try knocking the window, I think. But, you know, you get no luck. So you head back to the front and you're actually let in. So you got this butler letting you in, you know, his name's Franklin's, and he's like, alright pal, we got the food, we got the bevies, come on in, we'll make sure you're warm, you're well fed, and that you have somewhere to spend the night, you know. And this is exactly what happens. You go into the house and you sit down, and then they just sort of leave you to your own devices, you know, you just sat there twiddling your thumbs. And this is when you're given the option to actually look at some paintings. And what you're going to find out is that these paintings are haunted. You know, they will come to life and they will give you a little bit of information. They'll help you out on your adventure. So without spoiling anything, one of them will give you a hint as to how to avoid failing the next encounter. Well, not fail, but, you know, get the best out of it. Whereas another one will give you some information about a character you meet further down the line. You know, all in all, they don't mean no harm. They just want to help you, because obviously this is the House of Hell. So Grub's up and Franklin the butler and the master of the house come in, and you get to pick and choose what you want to eat. You know, you get to choose your meat, you get to choose your wine, you get to choose dessert. And this is really quite tricky, because what you don't know is they've arbitrarily spiked the food and they spiked the drink. You know, if you get knocked out, you end up in the bedroom. If you don't get knocked out, you end up in the bedroom anyway. And the bedroom really is your starting point for the rest of the adventure. But before you actually go on your adventure, a hunchback comes in and he gives you a drink. And it's up to you whether or not you want to let him come in and give you a drink, or you want to jump him and beat him up, lock him in the bedroom. But if you're nice to the guy, he will actually try to help you to the best of his abilities. He does tell you that they might not have locked the front door, you know. There's a good chance that you can just go up to it and leave, be on your way, you know, be safe. So the hunchback then, he just disappears, and if you want to check the front door, you can. And the door's open. You open these doors and all of a sudden there's a cultist standing right there in front of you, and understandably you slam the doors. You're terrified. You take on 1 fear point. You know, you actually have fear points in this one. It's a unique statistic. And then you do a runner. Now maybe you're not actually meant to check the front door. I don't know. I checked the front door because it seemed like the logical option. But either way, you've taken on 1 fear point and you're doing a runner around the house. You get to choose now where you want to go. And this is the thing. This is a bit of warning as well, because what you're going to find out is there are going to be, you know, corridors where if you go down, you're just sort of ushered to your own death. You know, you might be given the option of 2 separate doors, but both doors will inevitably lead to you dying. So then you just sort of lose where you are in the book, and this happens quite a lot, you know, because by the time you've actually found that you're dead, you're, what, like 4 pages, 5 pages away, and you've forgotten what number you're on when it was safe, where you weren't going to die, where you had the option between going this way or that way. And this happens a lot, and it's all in all just quite frustrating. You know, there's a point where you're in the basement and you're surrounded by cultists, and even if you go away from the cultists and you find these other doors, you actually die. You can't win. It's a game over regardless of what you do. You know, you press a button and it tells everyone where you are, and then you just, it's game over. And this happens a few times. You know, you might bump into the cultists, you might think, oh, I'm going to sneak past these guys, but no, the book already decided you were going to die, what, like 10 pages ago. And this is the thing, you know, generally speaking in the book, I'm going to say just avoid the cultists. It's not worth engaging with them unless you can immediately kill them, because what you're going to find is that it's a game over almost every single time you engage with them. And this is really where the difficulty comes from in the book, you know. With other fighting fantasy books, you make the wrong choice and you just die immediately, you know. You're not led down this corridor and then killed, you know. You just die immediately and you could just jump back to making that choice again. But with all that aside, you know, that's all the story is. You're just trying to make the right choices, you're trying to make the right decisions, you're trying to go down the right corridors, enter the right rooms, collect the right items, and talk to the right characters, you know. For instance, one character I really liked was Shako. I might have just committed first degree murder on that guy's name, but he's a really nice character. He is the hunchback, and he's got a nice little bit of personality to him. He's got a bit of a fighting spirit, and considering he's just like a throwaway character, well, initially he's a throwaway character, it adds a fair bit to his character development. It's really nice. I like Shako. You know, there's a few other characters. Most of them are just people that have got trapped there themselves, you know. I can't remember if they tell you their names. You know, they, oddly enough, they look very similar when drawn. But I like these characters. One guy, he'll give you some advice, but then he just sort of gets stabbed. It is what it is, you know. Press F to pay respect. But then you get other characters. Another old man who looks almost identical to him. He gives you some wise words of wisdom. He tells you, pal, you know, we're all doomed here, but maybe you can get out there, you can save the day, you can save yourself. One thing that I will say about the characters, it feels like because this isn't a fantasy setting, they're relying on the people just being regular humans, whereas, you know, maybe Caverns of the Snow Witch, you had an elf, you had a vampire, you had an orc, you had a dwarf, and they all stood out. With this book, they're all human, they're all people, and as a result, they don't tend to stand out that much because the illustrations are just black and white, hand-drawn, and they tend to look very similar. I mean, every single older man looks pretty much identical, apart from their facial expressions and their clothing. And then the same thing happens with the female characters. I think you bump into, what, 2 women? They might be the same people, you know, it's never really explained, but either way, they both look more or less identical. They could be twin sisters, maybe they are, maybe there's, the house might have a thing for twins, you know? You know, every single prisoner you encounter is going to be sacrificed at some point in some gory way. It would have been nice if they stood out a little bit more without you having to engage with them, because it just makes them feel like NPCs, you know. They feel like just generic NPCs, maybe on a board, maybe in D&D, you know. They don't really have much to them other than they're trapped there and they're going to be sacrificed. But you are eventually going to have to finish the story, and what actually happens is you fight the butler and the master of the house, and it's really well done, to be fair. It's a really nice little combat scenario, because what you're going to find out is, spoilers, the butler is actually the big bad guy. It's not the master of the house. You could beat that guy up and he's just going to sit there and cry, but if you attack the butler, what he does turn into is this massive hell demon. And it's a really cool fight, you know. I wish, you know, maybe they focused on the supernatural a bit more, maybe there were a bit more demons running around the house, because this fight is genuinely really cool. And the only thing is, you need a knife, and you need to be doing it in a certain room. And this is the part where you just sort of sat there, you're going, this is really cool, I like this, this is a really nice little fight. And you beat this guy up, and then he just sort of explodes into this demon, and then you kill the demon, and then he sets the whole house on fire. And now this is really where the end reference comes in, and it just describes you watching this house burning, and you're outside somewhere. It's probably stopped raining, and yeah, it's just a really nice ending. The house is burning, you're safe, and hopefully everyone else is safe. Hopefully everyone else gets out alive, otherwise you just inadvertently condemned everyone's entire horrible death. You know, it's weird to think about. But at the end of the day, you're not Fireman Sam. You're not there to save everyone else. You're there to save yourself. You know, they were dead anyway. You know, for all we know, the basement might be safe, and these cultists might just be sacrificing them all willy-nilly. So yeah, you know, that's the story. I really liked it. You know, if you asked me if it's worth getting, I'd say yeah, it's worth it. You know, I'd recommend getting the book. You know, if this caught your fancy, if this made you think, ooh, I quite fancy that, totally get it. You know, it's good, it's worthwhile. So yeah, that's me done. You know, that's the video done. If you like the video, don't be afraid to leave a like. You know, one like, one smile. Yeah, it's worth it then. You know, as long as I made someone smile. And hopefully, I'm hoping the next video, I want to do a series of fighting fantasy books. So the next video is going to be the Warlock Firetop Mountain, the first book, and then I'll do the second and third. You know, go up numerically rather than just randomly. And I am hoping to start writing scripts for these, so then I'm not making it up as I go along, so then I know what I'm saying to make it more precise, more coherent for you guys, so then I'm not making as many mistakes. But yeah, you know, feel free to subscribe, feel free to like. You know, I'm in this for the long run, I think. I'm hoping to do a series, like I said, you know, with multiple books and maybe a weekly upload on Thursdays. We're going to see how it goes anyway. So, without further ado, thanks guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a really, really nice day. Take care.